I was born and raised by the small streams. When I was little, my grandmother often joked that I could wade through streams before I even learned to walk, because whenever I heard the sound of water trickling, I would crawl to the door, clapping my hands in delight as if I were responding to the call of something very familiar. As I grew a little older, I would accompany my grandmother to wash vegetables by the rocky shore, and whenever I saw schools of small fish darting beneath my feet, I would forget everything else, leaning down close to the water to watch, regardless of my wet clothes and cold feet. Perhaps it was those afternoons that made me love the streams more than anything else in the world. Now, at 24 years old, I still live in my grandmother's old house at the foot of the mountain, beside the clear streams. My life is simple. In the morning, I help her tend to the garden, and in the afternoon, I go to the stream to set fish traps away from one creek to another to see how the water has changed today. It's not about catching more fish than anyone else, but rather to fill the silent spaces in my heart with the sound of water and the coolness of the forest. That day, I still remember very clearly I decided to embark on a longer journey than usual. I wanted to make 3 types of bamboo traps myself, then follow the stream far away, placing traps in places I'd never tried before. I woke up while it was still dark. The sound of the distant stream echoed like a familiar greeting. I lit the stove, brewed a pot of hot tea, and sat sipping it while preparing my knife, climbing rope, and bamboo basket. The smell of smoke intertwined with my hair and clothes, familiar and incredibly pleasant. I threw on my old waterproof jacket and stepped outside. The dew on the cold ground was biting to the touch. The path down to the stream was just a small dirt trail winding through the grass, but I'd walked it for decades as if it were the palm of my hand. As I walked, I listened to the birds calling each other awake. In the place where I live, the mornings have never been noisy. Only the sounds of nature whispering to one another. As I got closer to the stream, the sound of the water became clear and powerful, as if it knew I was coming down to play with it again today. The flat stone area by the stream has long been my usual spot for setting traps. I placed the bamboo basket down, took out my small knife, and began to split the selected bamboo pieces from the day before. Making a bamboo trap isn't difficult, but it requires precision. I enjoy the feeling of holding a rough piece of bamboo and gradually transforming it into something that can catch fish, something alive, tangible, and close to nature. I started to shape the strips, splitting the bamboo into thin pieces, smoothing the edges to avoid fraying, bending the bamboo strips to form the funnel's mouth, arranging the strips inside so that fish can enter but cannot escape. The curved bamboo strips woven together resemble the mouth of a wildflower. I tightly secured the funnel's mouth to the bamboo tube with 4 spines, then checked each joint. After nearly an hour, the first trap was complete. I picked it up, feeling its sturdiness in my hands, the result of mornings like this. The stream this season is clear, flowing over the rocks like a silk ribbon. I wade in, the cold water embracing my feet. I love that feeling. It makes me alert and full of energy. I look for a section of the stream with a narrow gap, where the water squeezes through, creating a natural path for the fish. That is the best spot for the bamboo trap to be effective. I tie one end of the line to a tree root by the bank, anchoring the trap in the right direction of the current. When the water starts to flow through the mouth of the trap, I smile. The trap is working. I squint as I watch the water carry the dry leaves drifting lazily. I wonder if the fish will like the trap I made, but I believe this stream will not let me down. I waded into a small stream, looking for a spot to sit under the forest canopy to finish making the bamboo fish trap. It was a type of trap I learned from my grandmother when she was still strong enough to accompany me to the stream. She used to say, "This bamboo trap is gentle. It can catch big fish without injuring them much." I followed her instructions, weaving the bamboo into a long tube shape, with a conical entrance and a latch at the back. The bamboo was soft yet resilient. After a while, my hands felt a bit sore, but I enjoyed that slight pain. It made me feel truly connected to the craft. That day, the stream flowed stronger than usual. Wading across to the other side to set the trap made me cautious with every step. The rock I stood on was as slippery as fish oil. I placed one foot on it, feeling a slight slip that made my heart race, but then I managed to regain my balance. I bent down to press the bamboo shoot into the deep crevice next to the large rock. The water flowed through the cracks, just the way fish like to hide. I tied the trap to a small branch on the bank to prevent it from being swept away by the current. Once everything was done, I let out a sigh of relief. I continued into the sparse forest where the stream opened into a small pool. Here, fish often swim in to hunt for food in the early morning. I gathered soft chestnut branches, tying them into curved sticks. Then I stuck them into the stream, forming 2 rows like a door, leading the fish inside and blocking their way out. A simple yet interesting trap. When I finished, I stood up, shook the water off my hands, and looked at the entire masterpiece I had spread along the stream. Today, I worked very hard. I returned to the bamboo trap as the sun began to set. The water was starting to get a bit murky. Perhaps it was raining upstream. I walked slowly to the trap, my heart racing a little. When I lifted the trap, I heard a strong splashing sound inside. My hands trembled slightly with joy. I opened the back cover and tilted the bamboo down onto the rock. 3 large stream fish fell out, their bodies shiny black, scales glistening in the sunlight. I laughed to myself, like a child who had found a precious toy. When I arrived at the location of the fish trap, the water was murkier and the current stronger. I was a bit worried, fearing the trap might get stuck on a rock or be swept away. But when I pulled the line up, I saw the trap was still there, and it was very heavy. My heart raced. I opened the trap door. A black stream fish, the size of my wrist, shot straight out, splashing water in my face. I jumped back, almost falling over, but my instincts kicked in, and I managed to grab it, holding it close to my body. The fish thrashed violently, but I held on tight. The feeling of victory surged up my spine, making me laugh like a madman. When I checked the fish trap, the first large raindrops began to fall onto the leaves. The sound of the rain hitting the surface of the stream was urgent, as if urging me to hurry home. I flipped the trap and caught a few small stream fish. That was enough. On the way back, the rain became heavier. The stream, once clear, turned a light yellow, a sign that floodwaters from upstream were rushing down. I quickened my pace, crossing over the slippery stones. At one point, I slipped and fell into the water. But I got up immediately, holding tightly to the fish basket behind me. When I reached the deep ravine, I knew the water was rising quickly. I chose the moment when the water receded slightly with the current, and jumped across. My foot slipped, but I managed to grab onto a rock. I made it. I stood there, panting, as the rain pelted my face, salty and cold to the bone. But my heart felt unusually warm. I had returned. When I opened the door to the house, I was soaked from head to toe, and she just smiled. "Did you go to the stream again, my child?" I set the basket of fish down on the ground. The largest fish nearly filled half the basket, making her eyes widen. The 2 of us prepared grilled stream fish over the fire. The smell of fish, the scent of burning bamboo, and the smoke blended together to create a flavor that I knew I would remember for a lifetime. Sitting by the fire, I told her about slipping, about the fish jumping into my face, about the rain in the forest almost sweeping me away with the current. She listened and nodded, her gaze warm. That night, as I lay in bed, I could still hear the sound of the stream in the wind. I thought about the bamboo traps I had made myself, reflecting on the water that had flowed with me from childhood to adulthood. I knew that tomorrow I would go back to the stream. I would carve bamboo again. I would wade through the cold water again. I would laugh when the basket of fish was heavy. It was not just a habit, it was a part of me. A part of the life by the stream that I'd loved since I was a child. And that journey ... will still be long, very long. That night, I went to bed later than usual. Not because I was tired, but because my heart was filled with an indescribable feeling, the feeling of living true to what I love. I lay in my side on the bamboo bed, my hand slightly reaching out from under the blanket to hear the sound of water outside the window more clearly. The rain had stopped, but the stream was still rushing strongly after the flood upstream. The sound of the water was deeper and more resonant, like the heartbeat of the forest breathing. I thought about tomorrow. The stream after the rain always undergoes many changes. Stones are washed away, sand is deposited, and fish swim downstream to other rocky crevices. It is the perfect time to find new spots and set different types of traps. The rain not only changes nature, but also teaches me how to observe every small movement of the water to better understand what the stream is trying to convey. I don't know since when, but I have regarded the stream as a friend. A somewhat temperamental friend, sometimes dangerous, but always honest. The stream is never deceitful. Rushing water is a warning, calm water is peace, murky water signals rain, and clear water indicates good weather. Just by listening to the sounds, observing the colours, and touching the water, I can guess what the stream is experiencing. Perhaps that is why I never feel lonely, even though most of the time it's just me and the sound of the water. My grandmother is old now and no longer goes to the stream with me. Friends are scattered in different places, but the stream is always there, as sincere as it was when I was a child. I drift into sleep in the coolness of the mountains and forests, my heart ignited with indescribable excitement. A new day is waiting for me. When I opened my eyes, the first light streaming through the bamboo door made me fully awake. I put on my warm jacket and heard my grandmother bustling about in the kitchen. The faint smell of wet with burning rose up, making me feel that a morning after the rain was truly pleasant. After drinking a cup of hot tea, I slung the bamboo basket over my shoulder and headed down to the stream. The morning air was fresh, as if it had been washed clean after the night's rain. The dirt path was still muddy, but I was used to it. Every time my foot sank into the mud, I remembered the days when I followed my grandmother to the fields, my hands and feet dirty, yet still laughing heartily. As I approached the stream, I paused to observe the stream today was completely different from yesterday. The water is still higher than usual, a few large rocks have been displaced. Many shallow streams that were there yesterday have now turned into storm-flowing water. I stood still for a few minutes, carefully observing each bend and every new stretch of sand. I don't know why I enjoy this feeling, it's as if the stream wants to test me, to see if I'm sensitive enough to notice its every small change. I step down, the water is cold but gentle. That feeling is so familiar that it feels like the stream's hand is touching my feet, asking, "Are you here again today?" Yesterday, I caught fish in the bamboo trap, but I left it in place to see what might get caught after the rain. As I approached, I noticed the binding was tighter than usual, and when I touched it, it vibrated slightly as if there was a creature struggling inside. I quickly pulled the trap up. The bamboo tube was much heavier than yesterday. I opened the lid. A streamfish longer than my forearm, with a shiny black body and a red hair, was thrashing around vigorously. I was so happy that I wanted to shout. The rain always pushes fish down from upstream, and today was indeed a lucky day. I released the fish into the waterlogged bamboo basket. The basket quickly became heavy, as if it wanted to sink. I tied it to a branch, allowing the water to flow through to keep the fish alive. Next was the bamboo trap. My heart raced because, after the rain, large fish often hide in the crevices of the rocks. When I pulled it up, I felt a weight that was different from yesterday. The trap shook violently, and water splashed everywhere. Another big fish, I exclaimed. I opened the trap, and a large jet of water shot out first, followed by two long black fish falling onto the rocky ground. They thrashed about, forcing me to quickly grab both to prevent them from slipping away. I laughed like a child receiving a gift. The stream after the rain always reveals new branches. I followed the unusual sound of water trickling just above the rocky shore. A small crevice, just wide enough for me to squeeze through, led to a completely new body of water that I'd never seen in over 20 years. There was a deep rock hollow, the water was as green as a cat's eye, so clear that I could see my reflection at the bottom. Fish swam in small schools, glinting like silver. I exhaled, surprised, as if I had just discovered a secret world. This would be a perfect spot for a trap, I said, very softly, afraid of scaring the fish away. I decided to make a new type of trap, one that I had never tried before, the rock mouth trap, using the natural rock crevices as the entrance. I just needed to create a barrier to guide the fish inside. I sat down on a flat stone and took some bamboo to split. I set up two bamboo pieces in a V shape, with the openings facing the rock crevice. Fish swim along the current, and when they see the gap between the two pieces, they will swim in, and once inside, they will get stuck in the rock cavity behind. It's simple, but effective if you choose the right time after the rain. I drove each bamboo stake into the bottom of the stream with a small stone. The cold stream water poured over my hands, making my fingers tremble slightly, but I found it enjoyable. I worked elegantly, as if the stream was watching my every move. After setting the trap, I stepped back to observe. I don't know if I'll catch anything, but creating something new with my phone hand in the forest truly makes me happy. I spent nearly an hour walking along the stream to find more spots. Every place was enticing, each one seemed to be calling me. I memorized every rock, every tree root, every stream to come back tomorrow. When I returned to the rock mouth trap, I waited in silence. Suddenly, the water inside the rock crevice stirred violently. I moved closer and looked down. There were fish, and not just one. I gently pulled the bamboo branch aside and used my hand to reach into the rock crevice. The first fish was so large that as soon as my hand touched it, it flashed like a live coil of rope. I held on tightly, using both hands to grip it, lifting it out of the water. It was heavy, slippery, with a shiny black body, its back as long as my hand, a truly precious fish from the stream. I couldn't help but exclaim, "Oh my God, I really got one." I placed it into the bamboo basket, water splashing onto my face. I felt the mountains and forest embrace me, saying, "You did well." As I stepped out of the forest, the sun had begun to set behind the mountains. The sunset cast a golden hue over each drop of water resting on the leaves and every stone by the stream, as if the stream had donned a new outfit to bid me farewell. The basket of fish on my back was heavy, swaying with each step, filling me with an unusual joy. The stream fish were fresh, hefty, and strong. This was the result of my patience and a bit of daring in the rain. As I entered the yard, my grandmother looked up and exclaimed, "My goodness, what did you do today to catch so many?" I smiled, my breath still steaming in the cold. The stream gave them to me, Grandma. She smiled gently, as if she understood that the little stream had not only given me fish, but also joy, peace, and you. That night, when Grandma had fallen asleep, I sat down by the slightly open window, with the moonlight streaming in. I took out my notebook and wrote down everything I'd done that day. I was afraid that if I didn't write it down, I would forget the feeling of discovering a new stream or the sensation of the first fish wriggling in my hands. Outside, the sound of the stream after the rain had calmed down. A gentle flow, whispering like a close friend confiding in me. I smiled softly. Tomorrow, I would go back to the stream. I might set a new type of trap. I might find another branch of water. I didn't know exactly what awaited me, but I knew I would never stop moving forward. Because, in this little valley, the stream is where my heart belongs.